Alrighty, here we go. We're looking at the maestro at work again, Roger Deakins, Blade Runner 2049. This is fun because looking at great cinematography is nice because you quickly realize that no matter what I do, my stuff's probably never going to look that good. Why? Because Raj probably doesn't have a system. He's probably the person who just goes, well, do I like it? Yeah, let's shoot it. Does it make sense for the story? Yeah. Does it take years of work to make something this good? Yeah, it takes a long time. Am I interested in doing that? No. I'd rather sit here and talk about how nice it looks and then make fun of you because you can't do it either, right? And you're probably trying way harder than I am. Maybe you're not, I don't know. But it looks really nice. And in fact, in keeping with the theme, the last couple of breakdowns here, this is a small snippet from a much larger breakdown. You can find that over on Patreon. The supporters of the show make this all possible. They make the breakdown videos possible. They make the podcast possible. Without them, I would be having to get on set and do real work more than I am, which would be a bummer because then I have to travel a bunch when I could just sit in my spare bedroom like this and have lots of fun. So I appreciate all the Patreon support. If you want to see the full breakdown of this film and hundreds of others, I think we're at, it's upwards of 400. It's been a long time and a lot of these feature films. What we find out though is this is the office scene. If we're keeping track at home of the 5 different scenes that we're looking at and the 5 different scenes that exist that you need to know about, and the lighting is all based on, well, it all stems from the choice of how the blocking is going to be arranged and what the coverage is going to be, because that tells us where we can light from, right? You don't want to see the lights. That seems pretty obvious. We're trying to make believe that this is a real world, people. If you see the lights, guess what happens? Nobody believes it. Step number 1, make people believe. Step number 2, the only way to make people believe is to not see the light stands. So, big, important choice. This is an office scene. If you don't know what that means, you're in trouble. I've got a whole course on office scenes below in the link in the description below. I got lots of things below down there. Have a little look-see. If not, well, you can just watch this video and get a little bit of it. Imagine this being 5 minutes long and the entire course being 6 hours long. There might be slightly more information in that course. I don't know, just me. Okay, let's have a little look at Blade Runner and the Maestro at work. Corner of the room, far side key, neg on this side, dark to this side. You get nothing but the highlights up there. Layers in the foreground, right? Shooting through as much shit as you can possibly shoot through. Even the angles of the bodies, right? They all tell the story. Angle of the light, just creating difference. What do you see? No one will salt and pepper an image better. Look at all of the different areas in the screen where there's light and dark. It would take us 20 minutes to pick them all out, right? Light, dark, 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 light, light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. I mean, they're even in the reflections. It's just so layered, nuanced, it's moving, it's cool. What does over the top get us? You know, if you can do this shot, in theory, you can do the other shots too, right? This is all of the information that you need to know for the entire, basically for cinematography, is this frame, right? All of the things. The angle that we're taking, the upstage key, well, not shooting into the corner, but you get it, the depth. And now, again, look at, see, this is where, you know, every single fucking frame is like this. Look at where the light is on her face in the background. It's not in the lit pit. It's not in the lit part. It's not back here. The light on her face matches up with the dark. Why? Because it creates depth and it's more interesting. And same over here. We break up the pattern so you got light and dark, and then just the perfect balance, right? There's a little return here, which just gives us our little warmth that happens, but really in there it's nice and dark. It's just, it gets to the point where you can't believe that it works this good once you start watching. And she's looking for the future. We're outside. And then we're gonna go inside, and this will be the last one that I talk about. Let's see. Okay, so we come into this little area. Again, if you wanna know lighting, key, look at how it just bleeds over just a little bit, and then this tiny hint here, right? Now, actually getting it to look like this on set is really, 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 really hard. Really, really, really hard to get all these balances, because you got 15 people on a set like this, probably more. People running around, you got all your electric people running around, you've got 10,000 things to think about if you're the cinematographer. So getting the levels just right, even getting 5 minutes to yourself to look at the monitor without being interrupted and just go, how do we got to get it darker on him, or just this position of the key light, right? First of all, we got to figure out where he's going to stand, and he's got to stand exactly there, right? Which is why you need good talent. They got to land, once he walks in, he's got to hit that mark. Then we got to get this light, right? This is our diffusion in the actual shot, but then we're bringing something else from over here. We've got to get it in just, you come a foot more with that lamp, and you start spreading it into here more, and it's not Roger Deakins, right? It's, you know, probably me trying to impersonate it. And you're like, it feels a little bit washed out. Well, the blacks aren't really quite sitting. No, man, it is, yeah, just getting it in exactly the right spot in every single shot. Then this little tiny leak, right? This little leak isn't pushed around this way to the camera so that all of a sudden hits the side of his nose or something. It doesn't look like a backlight. It looks like how a natural backlight would be. We just so happen to be in the right spot. And that's the way, when I talk to people about Roger Deakins' work, that's the way I sum it up. It's like, if you could live in a world where the natural light was perfect on you in every situation, that's a Roger Deakins movie. And that's what you should be going for. That's naturalistic, but it's perfect naturalism. Light and dark in the background. This is actually, you know, if you watch the whole scene, this is actually the corner of this building over here, even though it's a round building. And then all of the layers, which give us all of the top light. Look at the little eye light in this kid. Just a beautiful, this whole sequence is a beautiful looking sequence of perfect balance. And it's hard to see in this Netflix thing because it crushes the blacks when I record it. But, you know, you've obviously seen the movie. It's a beautiful looking scene. And we come into here. Which, do we talk about anything in here? Let's see. No, this is all standard stuff that we've already gone over, right? Like, okay, even with the top light, right? So this is, you know, if, again, to use the framework to our advantage, let's go back to the scene where we're looking at, okay. So in this situation, if you were going to think about it in your head, what exact scene is this? Or what template is this scene? Right, okay, it's this guy, he's going to this kid factory and he's going to talk to this guy who sells kids. Doesn't seem like any template that we have talked about before. There's no shortcut to lighting this, except that there is, right? Because what is the location? Where is the source of light coming from? It's coming from above. What other scene have we looked at with people where you're always going to top light it? It's going to be the dining table, the kitchen table, the dinner scene, right? A dinner scene is lit exactly like this. This is the Bob Richardson dinner scene. And so what are the elements that are important in that scene? Well, you can't shoot across on those things. You have to shoot outside. You have to place the talent on the outside of the circle and shoot over here. You don't want to shoot across the table because then they're going to get lit from the wrong side and you're going to lose all of your shape and it's going to flatten off and look like dog shit. So you already know, basically, you know where the people need to land to light this thing. And as soon as you know where people need to land to light the thing and you see the blocking happen, you know exactly where the camera's going to go. So, you know, we're not going to talk about the master of silhouettes here, but just does a great job with keeping those black levels. And then once he turns, all of this, okay, you know, we're constantly angles and towards the light, right? The shadow, you see it here. Everything, always the same direction of light relative to the frame. See it, okay, we push by. Nice little top light here as we walk along. Even here, you know, you're playing a little bit of the shadow towards the camera. Not a lot, but it's there. And let's go to the part where they stop talking. Where's a good frame to stop on? Let's go a little bit wider. Okay, here. Where do they stop with the circle of light, right? They don't stop underneath it, right? Because then you would get shitty lighting. It's over here. And just imagine that this is a kitchen table, or this is a dinner table here, right? And this is one person, this is the other person. We're going to shoot across the table, or sorry, around the outside of the circle. And that means we can have our light over here giving us this softness, and we get the perfect V, soft light, yes, into darkness. Okay, no backy edge light, no backy edge light. But that's one of those things where, I mean, there is something, right? You can see it just on his little collar there. There is some return coming back, which is probably just natural. But just because you know all the elements of the frame, it doesn't mean you have to add them in. It's just a good idea to have them ready to come up with. Like, okay, we need another solution. Like salt and pepper would be, man, it's really, really dark back here. Well, let's open one of these things up and put a little light in there because we're never going to see it. It's out of focus, but it just adds a richness to the frame. And even along here, like see how those lines are going across the frame? He's not landing on a flat spot. He's landing in a spot to get all the characteristics of the framework. And then we know what the reverse is going to look like, right? Because we just did, does he look to camera? He doesn't really look up. But imagine if you looked at Ryan Gosling, right? We've got shadow, down. We've got our nice toppy light, but just makes it over to that other cheek, right? And that distance, this distance, you know, you feel the Roger Deakins distance because he's basically parked on the same lenses all the time. You know, you get that openness around you. And because he's so good at doing the salt and pepper and balancing the tones inside of the frame in the background versus the foreground, that's why it feels so rich. You imagine this shot on a, I don't know, say this was an 85 instead, and all of a sudden it starts to feel really cramped and you don't appreciate the salt and pepper as much because it flattens off, the depth of field is so that it all gets so blobby. At least here you can feel the elements back there, right? It's like the balance is right. And we keep talking, same thing. Okay, so we've gone for a little bit more fill here. You know, if you look at, where is it? That really, really dark over there, right? Like nobody's perfect. It's really, really dark over there. Then we come in and, okay, now he's turned a lot more, but you can see something is on the ground to get into his eyes, right? And you're losing lots and lots of shadow here, but you still have the bulk of it, which is down there. And this light, you see the shadow on the jacket and this little top light. It's like, okay, we've got the top light now is hitting him more in the back of the head, which hits the other shoulder as well. And then we're lighting from the ground, which gives us this little extra wrap. You can see in here the actual reflections of it all. But again, peppering those things in there and still just that little hint of shoulder. And back to the thing that we've already seen. And unless we look at every scene, you're gonna think I'm not telling the truth, but it literally is every single time. Same thing here, he lands in the perfect spot. Perfect spot for the lighting. Just imagine if this whole interaction takes place, where's the wider version? So say you don't stop there. Say, you know, you go 15 feet that way where you're directly under the light. All of this stuff looks different. One little decision makes this whole look impossible. Okay, so as you can see, it's all about position relative to the light and where the action is going to take place and then where we place the camera accordingly. And while you may know this stuff, it looks super easy, right? After it's done, the easiest film to ever break down is something shot by Roger Deakins because it looks so simple. It looks like, oh, the camera's just in the perfect place. The light's just in the perfect place. The whole thing, it just all slots together like puzzle pieces just beautifully. The hard part is knowing that doesn't make you a good cinematographer. Doing that makes you a good cinematographer. When you show up on set, guess what's there? Nothing. You have to bring it all. So if knowing this stuff made you a better cinematographer, would I be here talking to you? No, I wouldn't. Because the hard part is in the doing. The easy part is in the talking about. Once it's already been chosen for you, once you've seen all of the decisions all the way down the tree, get to the final result, you're like, yeah, it's obvious. Yeah, but go to that location and sit there and try and figure it out on your own while there's 100 people waiting for you. And they're all waiting with bated breath for you to say, this is what we're going to do. No pressure. Just do it. And do it 100 times in your career across 100 different feature films and have them all look amazing. Then, you know, I'll call you the maestro too. Okay, that's going to do it for this one. Many thanks. We'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.